Normally we give it in Rio de Janeiro, but this year it's a special jury award in Los Angeles, in Las Vegas.
Yeah. Explain. This is so cool. Of all of the awards I've been given, this is very special.
Yes.
Can you say something about how it was
This
made?
is a special award made from a Brazilian artist from Rio de Janeiro. He is using the waste of the street to create our
Trophy.
Yes, our award. And you see,
And the watch has
there's
something
little
in it.
watch over there, and that's the symbol of the atomic bomb, of the destruction of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Because when they dropped the United States, the bombs over Hiroshima and Nagasaki, all the
Yeah.
watches stopped,
Oh, that is
crashed, and so we have a crashed watch as a symbol of our award inside. To
Great.
remember always
That is
Hiroshima and
very,
Nagasaki.
very profound. Thank you so much. Okay, and thank you for your earlier comment, and it sounded like this was somewhat of an antidote to the YouTubes you said that have been so promotional around this. Any comments or questions? Yes,
One of the, thank you for a beautiful film.
Thank you.
Super scary. You mentioned in it the attempt to try to overturn the law.
bills that were submitted to committees that were an attempt to kind of do a workaround with this law that seemed democratic because they were about putting it to the voters again and kind of undoing that previous law, but they never got out of committee. The Washington State, there's a lot more active industry there, with Bill Gates and other industries pushing this through. And the governor, Inslee, who's very progressive governor, but he signed off on a bill that gave $39 million to Energy Northwest to do a pilot out at Hanford, and you know, a lot of our Democratic representatives are really on board with this, including from Oregon. I wanted to also create a film. You mentioned the film was scary, but as a psychologist, I tried to make films that take on disturbing topics that are hard to think about. They're scary and anxiety provoking, but also capture something of the beauty and the attachment of people to place, because that's very important, I think, around climate activism. And so I wanted the Columbia River to be a kind of character itself. And when I visited the Hanford site, I had only known about Hanford through its horrific nuclear legacy and its, you know, a big Superfund site for this cleanup that will go also into eternity. But I didn't realize how much beauty there was in that area. Maybe being here in Nevada, you can appreciate the beauty of the desert. But for the Yakima people and other tribal people there's a lot of kind of spiritual material grounding to their attachment to that area. And I wanted that to come through in the footage, as well as the horrors of this legacy that are perpetually disavowed by the industry itself. I'm interviewing a range of engineers and scientists and activists, and wanted to make sure I wasn't gratuitously mocking their positions or exaggerating. I think sometimes people get caught in a campaign and exaggerate the effects to make a point. And so I really wanted to make sure that as an academic myself, that we could stand behind the claims. And I reached out to Jose Reyes, who's also a fellow colleague at Oregon State University, was head of the engineering department, and the assets that were paid for by the federal and state government. There were hundreds of millions of dollars that went into that NuScale project, and all the intellectual property rights were transferred to NuScale, which apparently is legal, I found out talking to attorneys. And I reached out to him and representatives of NuScale. We had back and forth email, maybe 6 of them, the fall of this project. I said, you know, I think that it's important to have Reyes or other representatives of this company respond to public concerns about their product, to really answer questions from this community. And then the final answer was no, we don't have time for that. And so they referred me to their website and their promo, so that's what I worked with. But I've been kind of surprised by how cavalier these promoters are about the concerns. They're very dismissive, disdainful of people who are concerned, as though it's just old-fashioned ways of thinking. That whole line, your grandfather's, this is not your grandparents' nuclear. One part of making documentaries that I cherish the most is going through old archival material. So when I found that Walt Disney program from the 50s and that whole lecture that Dr. Hines was giving to children about nuclear and teaching them about the nuclear bomb, and with the genie in the bottle, putting the genie back in the bottle, and his statement, I could hardly believe it. He said, what was so tragic, what was so disturbing about the atomic bomb, it's not only harmful, but it's a waste of energy. And then he puts the genie back in the bottle. And to me, it just so profoundly expressed kind of settler colonial thinking, that you can control everything within your reach, that people are affected are going to be very far away and are not going to count, and that you can control whatever you unleash. And the arrogance of that really, really struck me.
Okay. I think, by the way, that you did convey the beauty of the Columbia River. Like, it really was a character, and it was so poignant and beautiful. And I want to go there now.
There are a number of dynamics driving this. I think it has not, the nuclear issue, particular nuclear power, has not been palpable for young people. I mean, I grew up getting under my desk at school, you know, and being afraid of nuclear, of atomic energy and the nuclear issue. But a lot of young people, it's just not palpable for them in the same way. And I think the way that advertising has very much domesticated, their promos have domesticated the image. You know, they've moved away from those big phallic towers toward, even some of the ads have little skirts around them and they look benign. It's like a local toy set, you know, get your own little starter kit of a nuclear, a nuclear reactor next door. And I think a lot of, as I was saying earlier, a lot of young people are used to miniaturizing, so they've kind of played on that. And that it's a kind of technological fetishism, you know, and for psychologists, a fetish is, in a psychological sense, it's an object you use to focus on to shut out anxiety about the context. So a fetish object is something that hypnotizes you as a way of not looking at what surrounds it. And I think they have drawn on a kind of fetishizing of these objects that don't even exist, they haven't been built, right? But it's a fantasy, it is a fantasy land, like the Disney show suggested. And I think the way in which the industry has had a campaign to mock anti-nuclear activists as an older generation of people who are out of it. But you know, history can shift, and I think our film came out of a project where we wanted to bring opposition to this so-called new generation of nuclear into the broader environmental justice movement. And that's why it's been so great to be part of this, the International Uranium Film Festival, to hold it all together, which is a defetishizing, and looking at context and bringing the whole context.
This grew out of those earlier projects, and I've been really interested in intergenerational dynamics in the anti-nuclear movement. You'll see in early part of the film a lot of anti-nuclear activists of the 70s through the 90s, and many of them are still around doing this work. And so it became, for me, a way of, a form of social memory in the film, much like the previous film, holding on to histories that get cast aside, forgotten, or repressed, and paying tribute to the work of anti-nuclear activists. As so many young people now have been kind of captured by the push for technological fixes, including the push for small nuclear reactors. It kind of plays on this idea of both technologies becoming more miniaturized, small is good, and that these tech gurus will figure out all the problems down the road that elude any answers and have failed us over and over. And so I was very interested in intergenerational dynamics that you'll see in this film, the movement, and the way in which the industry itself has its own psychology and how it's tried to repackage and rebrand itself. So
Great.
yeah, it's so wonderful, and I think being part of this International Uranium Film Festival project is a way of showing a lot of these connections that I think are so often shut out. The relationship between the history of nuclear testing and weapons and nuclear power and its legacy. So there's a lot, I think, that people are trying to hold together in these festival screenings, but it's been great to be on the road with you people.
Thank you so much for
Okay,
coming.
thank
And we
you.
will have
Yay.
more time to talk with you later.
Thank
after the
you.
film.
Thank you.